My grandson called me cheap for a $100 gift, so I canceled his $50K college fund. When my grandson Tyler saw the bank representative walking away from our family dinner with his college fund paperwork, the color drained from his entitled face, faster than water down a drain. 20 minutes earlier, he'd been laughing with his friends about his cheap, out-of-touch grandma. Now he was learning that this old bird still had some very sharp talons. But let me tell you the whole story of how we got to that delicious moment. Hello everyone and welcome to Granny's Tales. My name is Margaret. I'm 73 years old, and I've always believed that family comes first. Generosity should be appreciated, and respect isn't negotiable, no matter how old you are. For the past 18 years, I've poured my heart, soul, and, yes, my wallet, into supporting my grandson Tyler. I thought we had a special bond. I thought he valued our relationship. I was about to discover just how naive this old grandmother could be, and what happens when you push someone who's survived 7 decades of life's curveballs. If you've ever felt taken for granted by the people you love most, or if you believe that wisdom and respect should go hand in hand, you're going to want to hear this story. Drop a comment below if you think family members should appreciate their elders. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Granny's Tales for more tales of grandmothers who refuse to be walked over. Let me paint you a picture of the last 18 years of my life. When Tyler was born, I was that grandmother who showed up to every soccer game, every school play, every birthday party with a camera, and an armload of presents. His parents, my son David and daughter-in-law Lisa, worked demanding jobs. So I became Tyler's after-school sanctuary. 3 days a week, Tyler would come to my house. We'd bake cookies, I'd help with homework, and I'd listen to his dreams about becoming a video game designer. When he was 8 and wanted a gaming console, I bought it. When he was 12 and needed a new bike, I was there with my credit card. When he turned 16 and wanted driving lessons, guess who paid for those? 2? But the real investment started when Tyler began talking about college. At 14, he announced he wanted to attend Stanford for computer science. The tuition alone was staggering, over $50,000 a year. His parents sat him down and explained they simply couldn't afford it, not with their mortgage and his little sister Emma's expenses. That's when I made the biggest financial decision of my retirement. I had been carefully saving money from my late husband's life insurance policy and my own modest pension. Instead of traveling the world or moving to a fancy senior community, I decided to invest in Tyler's future. I opened a college fund and began putting away $500 every month. Some months, when money was tighter, I'd skip buying new clothes or eating out with my friends to make sure that deposit went through. Tyler knew about the fund. In fact, he'd often joke about his Stanford, Grandma, and how lucky he was to have me. For 4 years, I scrimped and saved, turning down invitations to cruises with my girlfriends and shopping trips because every dollar mattered for his education. By the time Tyler turned 18 this past spring, that account had grown to just over $50,000. I was so proud, imagining him walking across that graduation stage, knowing I played a part in his success. But somewhere along the way, my grateful grandson had turned into someone I barely recognized. The changes didn't happen overnight. At first, I chalked up Tyler's behavior to typical teenage moodiness. He'd grunt hello when he came over, spend most of his time on his phone instead of talking with me, and rush through the homework help sessions that used to be our special time together. By his senior year, the disrespect became more obvious. He'd roll his eyes when I'd suggest we bake together or watch our old favorite movies. When I'd ask about his college applications or his plans, he'd give me one-word answers and act like I was bothering him. The real wake-up call came last Christmas. I had spent weeks knitting Tyler a beautiful sweater in his school colors, blue and gold. It took me hours every evening, my arthritis making my fingers ache. But I wanted to give him something personal and meaningful. When he opened it, he held it up, looked at his friends who were visiting, and said, "Thanks, Grandma. Very grandma-ish." They all snickered. Then there was the incident in March when I offered to take Tyler and his girlfriend Jessica out for his 18th birthday dinner. I suggested we go to Romano's, a nice Italian place I'd been saving up to afford. Tyler looked at Jessica and said, "She always takes us to these old people restaurants. We wanted to go to that new steakhouse downtown." When I explained that, the steakhouse was quite expensive, Tyler said. "Come on, Grandma, don't be so cheap. It's my birthday. Cheap." That word stung more than he knew. The final pattern that should have warned me was how Tyler only called or visited when he needed something. Money for gas, money for dates, money for a new video game. The conversations were always short, always transactional. I realized I hadn't had a real heart-to-heart with my grandson in over a year. But I kept telling myself this was normal teenage behavior. He'd grow out of it. After all, wasn't I doing all this for his future? Tyler's graduation party was held at my son David's house on a beautiful Saturday afternoon in May. I had been looking forward to it for weeks, imagining celebrating this milestone with my grandson before he headed off to Stanford in the fall. Arrived early to help set up, bringing with me a carefully wrapped gift. A beautiful leather portfolio with his initials embossed in gold, along with a $100 gift card to Best Buy. I knew he loved his electronics, and I thought the portfolio would be perfect for his college interviews and eventually his first job. The party was in full swing when Tyler opened presents. He tore through gift after gift. His parents gave him a new laptop. His aunt gave him $200 cash. His friends gave him various gadgets and games. When he got to my gift, he opened the portfolio first. "Oh, thanks, Grandma," he said, barely glancing. Had it before setting it aside. Then he opened the gift card. $100 to Best Buy, he announced. Thanks. I waited for more. Maybe a hug. Maybe a comment about how he could use it for college supplies. Instead, Tyler turned to his friend Marcus and said, in a voice loud enough for several people to hear, "Classic Grandma move. $100 like it's some major gift." He laughed. "She probably thinks this is like winning the lottery or something." Marcus laughed too. "Dude, my grandma gave me $500 just for graduating high school." "Right?" Tyler continued, not realizing I was still within earshot. "She's always been cheap like that. Remember when she took us to Romano's instead of the steakhouse? Everything's always about her budget with her. That word again. Cheap. But Tyler wasn't done. At least she's got that college fund money saved up for me. 50 grand isn't bad for an old lady living on Social Security." The casual way he dismissed my gift, my financial situation, and my years of sacrifice hit me like a physical blow. Here I was, having given up vacations, new furniture, dinners out with friends, even necessary home repairs, all to save money for his education. And to him, I was just cheap. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, where I sat on the closed toilet seat and cried for 10 minutes. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a foolish old woman who had been taken for granted by someone she loved unconditionally. That's when something shifted inside me. The hurt began to transform into something else entirely. Clarity. That night, I sat in my living room with a cup of tea and really thought about the situation. This wasn't just about a thoughtless comment from an 18-year-old. This was about a pattern of disrespect that had been building for years, and my own role in enabling it. I realized that by constantly giving Tyler everything he wanted without expecting gratitude or respect in return, I had taught him that my generosity was something he was entitled to, not something to be appreciated. I had made myself into an ATM with legs. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my lawyer, Patricia Henley. Patricia had handled my husband's estate and had been after me for years to update my will and organize my finances better. "Margaret," she said when I explained the situation, "I've been waiting for this call for a long time, not because I want you to be vindictive, but because I think you need to take control of your financial autonomy." Over the next week, Patricia and I had several meetings. She helped me understand exactly what my options were regarding the college fund, which was in my name with Tyler as the beneficiary. She also helped me review my will and other financial arrangements, but I didn't want to make any hasty decisions. Instead, I decided to observe Tyler's behavior for the next few weeks. I wanted to see if the graduation party incident was an aberration or part of a larger pattern. What I discovered broke my heart and steeled my resolve. Tyler came to visit me twice in the following month. Both times he was asking for money. Once, for a summer vacation with friends. Once for a new phone. Both times, when I said I needed to think about it, he became visibly frustrated. During the second visit, he actually said, "Come on, Grandma. You're just sitting on all that money anyway." He never asked how I was doing. Never asked about my health, my friends, or my life. Our entire relationship had become reduced to his requests and my responses. The final test came when I called him just to chat on a Tuesday evening. He answered the phone with, "Hey, Grandma, I'm kinda busy. Do you need something?" When I said I just wanted to talk, there was actually an audible sigh. "Can we do this? Later. I'm hanging out with friends." That's when I knew what I had to do. I planned Tyler's lesson carefully. I knew that simply cutting off his college fund would be devastating, but I also knew it needed to happen in a way that would make him understand exactly why. I decided the setting should be public, not to humiliate him, but to ensure there were witnesses to his behavior and my response. Family gatherings had a way of bringing out Tyler's most entitled behavior, especially when his friends were around. The opportunity came sooner than expected. David called to invite me to a family barbecue the following Saturday. Tyler would be there with several friends, including Marcus, who had been present for the cheap grandma comment. I prepared meticulously. I contacted Patricia and asked her to prepare paperwork to close the college fund and transfer the money back to my personal savings account. I also asked her to draft a letter explaining Tyler's new financial situation regarding college. On Saturday morning, I had Patricia meet me at a coffee shop near David's house. We reviewed all the paperwork one final time. "Are you sure about this, Margaret?" she asked. "It's a significant amount of money." "Patricia," I said, "I've been sure about very few things in my life, but I'm sure about this. That money was saved with love and sacrifice, intended for someone who would appreciate it. Tyler has made it clear that my generosity means nothing to him." I arrived at the barbecue carrying a small gift bag, not for Tyler, but containing something that would change everything. The party was in full swing when I got there. Tyler was holding court with his friends, probably talking about his upcoming Stanford adventure. I watched him for a while, noting how he interacted with others. Dismissive of his little sister Emma, short with his parents when they asked him to help, and completely absorbed in impressing his friends. After about an hour, I approached the group of young men. "Tyler," I said, "could I speak with you for a moment? I have something for you." He looked annoyed at the interruption but walked over. His friends followed, clearly expecting another awkward grandma moment they could laugh about later. I handed him the gift bag. "Go ahead, open it." Tyler reached in and pulled out an envelope. He opened it and began reading. I watched his face change as he processed the words. "What is this?" he asked, his voice suddenly very quiet. "That," I said in a clear voice that carried to his friends, is a letter from my attorney explaining that I've closed your college fund and transferred the money back to my personal account. The silence was deafening. Tyler's friends stopped talking. Even the adults nearby turned to listen. You what? Tyler's voice cracked. I closed your college fund, I repeated calmly. All $50,247 of it. The money I saved by skipping vacations, wearing old clothes, and eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch so I could put away $500 every month for 4 years. Tyler was staring at the paperwork, his hands shaking slightly. You can't do this. You promised me that money for Stanford. I promised that money to a grateful grandson who appreciated his family's sacrifices, I said. Unfortunately, that person seems to have disappeared somewhere around your 16th birthday. Marcus, ever helpful, piped up. Dude, she can't just take away money that's supposed to be yours. I turned to Marcus with a smile. Actually, Marcus, since it was my money, earned by my late husband, and saved through my sacrifices, I can do exactly what I want with it. But I'm glad you're here, because you were present 3 weeks ago when Tyler called me cheap for giving him a $100 gift card. You laughed when he mocked my financial situation and dismissed 4 years of my scrimping and saving as something he was entitled to. Tyler's face was now bright red. Grandma, I didn't mean... You meant exactly what you said, Tyler. You think I'm cheap. You think my gifts aren't good enough. You think I'm just an old lady living on Social Security who should be grateful to. Hand over money to someone who can't even be bothered to have a real conversation with me unless he needs something. The whole backyard had gone quiet now. David and Lisa were staring in shock. Well, I continued, this cheap old lady just freed up $50,000 to spend on herself. Maybe I'll take that European cruise I've been putting off. Maybe I'll renovate my kitchen. Maybe I'll donate it to charity. To young people who understand the value of gratitude and respect. Tyler was now visibly panicking. Grandma, please. I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said. I was just... You were just showing me exactly how you really feel about our relationship, I said. And now I'm showing you what happens when you take someone's love and generosity for granted. Patricia chose that moment to appear, right on schedule. Mrs. Henderson, I have the final paperwork for you to sign. The sight of my lawyer made everything real for Tyler. This wasn't a bluff or an empty threat. This was actually happening. Stanford starts in 3 months, Tyler, I said as I signed the documents. I suggest you start looking into student loans, scholarships, and maybe a less expensive school. Or perhaps you can ask Marcus's grandmother, the one who gives $500 gifts, to help you out. The fallout was immediate and intense. Tyler stood there for several minutes, just staring at the paperwork, while his friends awkwardly made excuses to leave. David and Lisa were furious. At first with me, then with Tyler as the full story came out. That evening, I received tearful phone calls from both Tyler and his parents. Tyler's apology was desperate and full of promises to change. David and Lisa begged me to reconsider, explaining how this would derail Tyler's entire future. But I had made my decision with a clear mind and a firm heart. I explained to them that Tyler's behavior had been escalating for years, and that giving him everything he wanted without requiring respect or gratitude had created this entitled monster. He needs to learn that actions have consequences, I told David. And he needs to learn the value of money by earning it himself, not by expecting others to hand it over. Over the following weeks, Tyler tried everything. He showed up at my house, with flowers and apologies. He wrote me a long letter about how sorry he was, and how much he loved me. He even offered to do chores around my house to earn back the college fund. But I could see through it all. This wasn't genuine remorse. This was panic about losing something he felt entitled to. The real change came about a month later. Tyler. had spent weeks researching his options, and had come to the sobering realization that Stanford was now impossible without my help. He enrolled in our local community college instead, planning to transfer after 2 years if he could maintain good grades and save money from a part-time job. When he came to tell me about his new plans, something was different. He sat down at my kitchen table, the same table where we used to do homework together, and actually looked me in the eyes. "Grandma," he said, "I want you to know that I understand why you did what you did. It took me a while, but I get it now." "Do you?" I asked. "Yeah, I was an entitled brat. I took you for granted. I treated you like your only value was what you could give me financially." His voice cracked a little. "I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. For the first time in months, I saw a glimpse of the grandson I used to know." "Tyler," I said, "I didn't take away that money to be cruel. I took it away because I love you too much to let you turn into someone who thinks the world owes him everything without giving anything back." We talked for 2 hours that day. Really talked, like we hadn't in years. He told me about the pressure he felt to succeed, about how he'd gotten caught up in impressing his friends, about how he'd started seeing me as just a source of financial support rather than as a person. I told him about the loneliness I'd felt, watching our relationship become so transactional. I explained how hard it had been to save that money, and how much his dismissive attitude had hurt. By the time he left, we both had tears in our eyes, but they were good tears. It's been 6 months since I canceled Tyler's college fund, and I can honestly say it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Tyler is thriving at community college. His grades are excellent, better than they ever were in high school, and he's working 20 hours a week at a local computer repair shop. He's learned the value of money by earning it himself, and he's discovered that he actually enjoys the challenge of making his own way. More importantly, our relationship has been transformed. Tyler calls me every Sunday now, not to ask for money, but just to talk. He tells me about his classes, his job, his girlfriend. He asks about my life, my health, my friends. Last month, he surprised me by showing up with groceries and insisting on cooking dinner for me. He's also started talking about transferring to a state university rather than Stanford, recognizing that the education quality can be just as good at a fraction of the cost. The Tyler who once demanded the most expensive options now comparison shops and budgets carefully. As for the money I reclaimed, I did take that European cruise, and it was wonderful. I also used some of it to help Tyler's younger sister Emma with her music lessons. She's always been respectful and appreciative. The rest sits in my account, earning interest and giving me security in my retirement years. But the most valuable thing I gained wasn't financial. It was my grandson's genuine respect and affection. And that's how this old grandma taught her. Entitled grandson, the most important lesson of his young life. That love and respect must go hand in hand, and that generosity should never be taken for granted. Looking back, I realized I'd been enabling Tyler's entitled behavior for years by giving him everything he wanted without requiring anything in return. I thought I was being loving, but I was actually doing him a disservice by not teaching him the value of gratitude and respect. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to let them face the consequences of their actions. Tyler needed to learn that relationships aren't one-sided, that elders deserve respect, and that money represents sacrifice and hard work, not an endless entitlement. To all the grandparents out there watching this, don't be afraid to set boundaries. With your grandchildren, don't let them take your love for granted or treat you like an ATM. You've lived long enough to know your worth, and you deserve to be treated with dignity and appreciation. And to the younger folks, remember that your grandparents won't be here forever. The time you spend with them, the respect you show them, and the gratitude you express for their sacrifices. These things matter more than any gift they might give you. What do you think? Was my approach too harsh, or did Tyler get exactly what he deserved? Have you ever had to lay down the law with entitled family members? Share your stories and opinions in the comments. I love a good discussion. If you enjoyed watching this family drama unfold and appreciated seeing respect restored between generations, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe to Granny's Tales for more tales of grandmothers who refuse to be walked over, and hit that notification bell so you're the first to know when we share another story of elder wisdom in action. Thanks for listening, and remember, never underestimate the power of a grandma who knows her worth.